The biting California wind swept through the tattered remains of the makeshift shelter Elias Vance had built from discarded cardboard and old newspapers. In a city brimming with technological innovation like Hawthorne, Elias found himself trapped in a cruel paradox. The air hummed with the promise of progress, a promise that had long since abandoned him. Every dawn brought the same gnawing hunger, the same bone-deep chill, and the same crushing weight of regret. He forced himself to his feet, his joints protesting every movement. His clothes, once the pristine uniform of a NASA engineer, were now stained with grime and irreparably torn. A trembling hand ran through his tangled gray hair, his gaze fixed on the cracked pavement. A nervous tic surfaced. His hand reached for a collar that wasn't there, fingers brushing against the bare skin of his neck. He repeated the motion, a ghostly gesture that mirrored the invisible weight of his past. His daily routine was a grim dance of survival. He scavenged behind fast food dumpsters for scraps, always wary of being caught. He knew the rhythm of the city, the early morning rush, the midday lull, the evening exodus. He was a ghost, invisible to the bustling crowds, a forgotten footnote in the grand narrative of progress. A fleeting image crossed his mind, a pristine laboratory, the hum of computers, his younger self hunched over schematics with focused intensity. The Mars rover, his baby. He saw himself alive and purposeful, meticulously calibrating sensors, running simulations, poring over data with unwavering dedication. He had been so proud. The memory crumbled, replaced by the harsh reality of the alleyway. The rover. It was the work of his life, a testament to human ingenuity and the boundless passion for exploring the universe. But it had also been his downfall. The flashback sharpened, the idyllic lab morphing into a sterile conference room. The air was thick with accusation. Screens displayed the rover's faulty imagery, its mission a catastrophic failure. The simulation had gone wrong, horribly wrong. He remembered the faces of the review board, a mixture of disappointment and thinly veiled contempt. "Mr. Vance," the lead investigator had said, voice cold and impersonal, "as the lead engineer, the ultimate responsibility for this failure rests with you." He had tried to explain the external factors, a defective component from a compromised supplier, an unforeseen software glitch that rippled through the system. But his words were swallowed by the magnitude of the disaster. Lives had been at stake, even in simulation. Careers had been on the line. His career included. He took the blame. He had to. It was the only honorable thing to do. But the weight of that decision had crushed him, leaving behind a shell of the man he once was. Back in the present, Elias shuffled toward a discarded newspaper near a bus stop. He picked it up, smoothed the crumpled pages, searching for anything to distract him. He wasn't truly reading. He was just trying to keep his mind occupied, to hold the memories at bay. His eyes scanned the digital section, and then he saw it. A tiny, innocuous post in the vast expanse of the internet. Barely a blip. It was a comment on an old article about Mars missions. "What happened to Elias Vance?" it read. "He was a great engineer, worked on some of the early rover technologies. Does anyone know what he's doing now?" His heart paused. He hadn't heard his name spoken or seen it in print in years. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the comments. "Last I heard, he took the fall for that simulation failure." Another comment read, "Shame, really. He was one of the best." Then, a more recent comment caught his attention. "I'm trying to find Elias Vance. If anyone has information, please contact me." A wave of paranoia washed over him. Who was looking for him? And why? Was it someone from his past, trying to reopen old wounds? Or worse, he needed to disappear. Meanwhile, in a sleek, minimalist office overlooking the sprawling SpaceX facility, Elon Musk sat hunched over a computer screen. He read the online post again, his brow furrowing thoughtfully. The name Elias Vance echoed in his mind. He vaguely remembered hearing about the engineer and the Mars mission failure, but what truly piqued his interest were the comments from other engineers. Brilliant, innovative, a true visionary. Those were not words to be taken lightly. Musk had always believed in second chances, in the untapped potential of those whom society had overlooked or discarded. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze drifting over the expansive SpaceX campus below. His empire was built on innovation, on pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But he also knew that real progress required more than technology. It required empathy, understanding, and a willingness to see value where others saw only failure. "Find him," Musk said to his assistant, his words clipped and resolute. "Find Elias Vance. I want to talk to him." The search began, a quiet, methodical operation that spanned days. Musk's team combed through public records, social media, even homeless shelters, but Elias had vanished without a trace. Finally, after days of fruitless searching, one of Musk's security team thought to check the area around the Hawthorne facility. They spotted a disheveled figure rummaging through a dumpster near the perimeter fence. The description matched the few remaining images of Elias Vance. Musk was informed immediately, and without hesitation, he drove his own Tesla to the location. He parked discreetly and approached Elias on foot, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and concern. Elias, oblivious to Musk's approach, was focused on the meager scraps he'd salvaged from the trash. He straightened up, a half-eaten sandwich in hand, and turned to see the tall, imposing figure standing before him. "Elias Vance?" Musk's voice was surprisingly soft. Elias froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. He recognized the face instantly. It was Elon Musk, the man, the legend, and here he was, standing before him, ragged and broken. "Who are you?" Elias stammered, his voice hoarse from disuse. "My name is Elon Musk," Musk replied, extending his hand. "I've been looking for you." Elias recoiled, retreating toward the dumpster. "Leave me alone," he muttered, his eyes darting nervously. "I don't want anything to do with you." Musk lowered his hand, his expression unreadable. "I know about your work on the Mars rover," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I know what happened." Elias flinched as if struck. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations and painful memories. "You don't know anything," Elias snapped, his voice rising with desperation. "You don't know what it was like." "Maybe not," Musk admitted. "But I know you're a brilliant engineer, and I believe you still have something to offer." Elias stared at Musk, disbelief and suspicion mingling in his gaze. The offer sounded absurd, a cruel joke the universe was playing on him. What could a homeless, broken man possibly offer the CEO of SpaceX? "Stay away from me," Elias hissed, clutching the half-eaten sandwich, his hand shaking. "Just leave me alone." Musk stood his ground, his expression unwavering. "I'm not going to leave you, Elias," he said, his voice firm but compassionate. "I'm here to help." The persistent drone of traffic faded as Elon Musk continued his appeal. "Elias, look, I understand your hesitation. What happened, it was a tragedy. But you can't let it define you. You possess a rare intellect, a deep understanding of systems we're only beginning to grasp. Let me offer you a chance to recalibrate. Food, shelter, a safe place to think. No strings attached initially." Elias remained unmoved, his gaze fixed on the cracked pavement. The tick, the subtle adjustment of a non-existent collar, was more pronounced now. Recalibrate? I'm a broken instrument, Musk. Useless. Best left to rust. Musk knelt, bringing himself closer to Elias's eye level. He spoke softly, deliberately. Rust is a waste of perfectly good iron. And you, Mr. Vance, are far more valuable than iron. You're talking about the Mars rover. It was revolutionary. The work you did saved lives, even if the mission didn't go to plan. You were trying to solve a problem that has never been solved before. I know your skills. You can help me solve some other problems. Musk paused, gauging Elias's reaction. There's a project. Something confidential. It requires a unique perspective, a mind that thinks differently. Your mind. Elias finally met Musk's gaze, a flicker of something, curiosity, in his eyes. Confidential? What are you talking about? Musk smiled faintly. Let's just say it involves pushing boundaries, reaching for something beyond. But first, let's get you out of here, get you cleaned up, get you fed. Then, if you're willing, we can talk details. Days blurred into a strange mixture of hunger and hope. Musk's words echoed in Elias's mind, a siren song promising redemption, a concept he'd long abandoned. The streets offered only survival, a grinding monotony of finding scraps and avoiding attention. But the alternative? Re-entry into a world that had cast him out? The thought was terrifying. Yet, the gnawing emptiness in his stomach, the bone-deep weariness, and the faint ember of ambition refused to be ignored. He was desperate. Finally, driven by a mixture of desperation and a sliver of belief, Elias made his decision. He found a discarded phone booth, the glass grimy and scratched, and dialed the number Musk had given him. His voice, raspy from disuse, cracked as he spoke. It's Vance. Elias Vance. I'll meet with you. The arrangements were swift, almost surreal. The following morning, a sleek black Tesla, bearing the SpaceX logo, arrived at the designated corner. The driver, a young man with kind eyes, didn't betray a flicker of judgment at Elias's appearance. The assistant, a woman with a warm smile, offered him a bottle of water and a blanket. The car smelled new, of leather and technology, a stark contrast to the acrid stench of the streets. As they drove, Elias stared out the window, Hawthorne transforming from a landscape of urban decay to a vista of gleaming steel and glass. The SpaceX facility loomed ahead, a testament to human ingenuity, a beacon of innovation. He felt a surge of nausea, a wave of dizziness. He was an imposter, a ghost about to intrude upon a world he no longer belonged to. The Tesla pulled into a private entrance, bypassing the main security checkpoint. Inside, he was led to a small, unassuming room. A set of new clothes, a simple gray t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, lay neatly folded on a chair. A note instructed him to shower and change. The shower was a revelation. Hot water cascaded over his grimy skin, washing away layers of dirt and despair. He scrubbed fiercely, trying to erase the memories etched into his flesh. When he emerged, clean and dressed in the new clothes, he barely recognized the man in the mirror. The haunted look remained, but it was tempered by a flicker of something else. Anticipation. He was led to a conference room, minimalist and modern, overlooking a vast expanse of the SpaceX complex. Musk was already there, standing by the window, his gaze fixed on a distant launch pad. He turned as Elias entered, a genuine smile on his face. Elias, welcome. I trust you're feeling refreshed? Elias nodded, still struggling to find his voice. Thank you for everything. Musk gestured towards a chair. Please sit. Let's talk about this project. He paused, his expression turning serious. It's ambitious, even by our standards. We're developing a new propulsion system, something revolutionary, for deep space exploration. He walked over to a large screen, activating a holographic projection. A complex engine design shimmered into existence, intricate and awe-inspiring. We've hit a wall, a fundamental engineering challenge that's eluded our best minds. That's where you come in. Musk explained the intricacies of the project, the technical hurdles they faced, the potential breakthroughs that lay within reach. Elias listened intently, his mind slowly re-engaging, the dormant engineer within him stirring to life. The concepts, the equations, the sheer audacity of the endeavor sparked something within him, a forgotten passion for problem-solving. Your work on the Mars rover, Musk continued, your understanding of propulsion systems, your ability to think outside the box, it's invaluable. We need your expertise, Elias. He paused, meeting Elias's gaze. This isn't just about giving you a job. It's about giving you a chance to contribute, to make a difference, to prove to yourself and to the world what you're capable of. A temporary contract, Musk went on to clarify, to prove your worth. The door slid open and a woman entered, her face betraying no emotion. Mr. Musk, the team is assembled in the engineering lab. Excellent, Musk said, turning back to Elias. Are you ready to meet them? Elias hesitated, his anxiety returning in full force. The thought of facing a room full of skeptical, judging eyes sent a shiver down his spine. He adjusted his collar, the tic now more pronounced than ever. I don't know. Musk placed a hand on Elias's shoulder, his touch surprisingly gentle. They're brilliant, but they're also human. Show them what you know, Elias. Show them what you're made of. With a deep breath, Elias nodded. All right, let's do it. The engineering lab was a hive of activity, a symphony of tapping keyboards, whirring machines, and hushed conversations. A group of engineers stood clustered around a holographic display, their faces etched with concentration. As Musk and Elias entered, the room fell silent. Musk clapped his hands, drawing attention to their arrival. Team, I'd like you to meet Elias Vance. Elias will be joining us on the propulsion project. A murmur rippled through the group. Elias could feel their eyes on him, scrutinizing his appearance, questioning his presence. He saw doubt, skepticism, and a hint of pity. One engineer, a young woman with a sharp gaze, stepped forward. Mr. Musk, with all due respect, I've read the reports. Mr. Vance hasn't been active in the field for some time. Are you sure he's up to the task? Another engineer chimed in, his voice laced with concern. And, is he even healthy enough? This project requires long hours, intense focus. Elias felt his face flush with shame. The tic intensified, his hand instinctively reaching for his non-existent collar. He was an outsider, a pariah, a reminder of failure. He didn't belong here. Musk raised his hand, silencing the murmurs. Elias's past experience is invaluable. He brings a unique perspective to the table. I have full confidence in his abilities. I suggest you give him a chance to prove himself. He glanced at Elias. Show them, Elias. Elias swallowed hard, forcing himself to meet their gaze. He straightened his shoulders, trying to project an air of confidence he didn't feel. His voice, still raspy and uncertain, filled the silence. I know I've been away for a while, and yes, I've made mistakes. But I'm here to learn, to contribute, to help solve this problem. I may be a little rusty, but I'm willing to work hard. If you give me the chance, I won't let you down. The room remained silent, the engineer's expressions unreadable. Elias knew he had a long way to go to earn their trust, to prove his worth. But for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. He was back in the game, a ghost given a second chance. The road to redemption would be long and arduous, but he was ready to walk it. Elias Vance sat hunched over his workstation, the glow of the monitor reflecting in his tired eyes. The sleek, minimalist design of SpaceX was a world away from the cardboard box he called home just weeks ago. Now, surrounded by cutting-edge technology and brilliant minds, he felt like an alien, a ghost haunting the machine. His tic, a nervous adjustment of his collar, which wasn't there, had become more frequent, a constant reminder of his unease. The flashbacks were relentless. Images of the Mars mission simulation, the flashing red lights, the chilling alarm, and the faces of his colleagues blaming him. They would ambush him at any moment, during meetings, in the cafeteria, even in his dreams. Sleep offered little respite, only a replay of his greatest failure. He took a deep breath, trying to ground himself. He focused on the complex equations swirling on the screen, the intricate dance of physics that held the key to the propulsion system. This project, Musk's audacious dream of deep space exploration, was his lifeline. Despite his internal turmoil, Elias's brilliance couldn't be suppressed. He saw patterns, connections, and potential pitfalls that others missed. During one of the team meetings, reviewing the latest simulation data, he spoke up, his voice still raspy and hesitant. "The cooling system," he began, pointing to a specific graph. "It's not efficient enough. The margin of error is too thin." A wave of silence washed over the room. The lead engineer, a young, sharp woman named Anya, frowned. "We've run hundreds of simulations, Elias. The cooling system meets all the required specifications." Elias swallowed, his palms sweating. This was it, the moment where he would be exposed as a fraud, a broken man pretending to be an engineer. But he pressed on, driven by a desperate need to prove himself, to justify Musk's faith in him. "The simulations are based on ideal conditions," he countered, his voice gaining a little strength. "They don't account for unforeseen variables, micrometeoroid impacts, radiation spikes. The current system is too vulnerable." Anya remained skeptical, but she was also intelligent enough to recognize a valid point. "Do you have a suggestion?" Elias hesitated, then laid out his idea, a modification to the cooling system that would add redundancy and improve its resilience in extreme conditions. He explained the underlying principles, drawing on his deep understanding of thermodynamics and materials science. As he spoke, the initial skepticism in the room began to dissipate. The other engineers, initially dismissive of the disheveled newcomer, started to nod in agreement. Anya, her expression thoughtful, asked probing questions, challenging his assumptions and pushing him to defend his proposal. By the end of the meeting, Elias had won them over. His insights were undeniable, his logic impeccable. The team agreed to implement his modifications and run further simulations. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Days turned into weeks, and Elias threw himself into the project. The pressure was immense, the stakes incredibly high, but he found solace in the work. Engineering was his language, the one thing he still understood. With each problem solved, with each obstacle overcome, a sliver of his former confidence returned. One evening, after working late into the night, Elias stumbled upon a critical technical challenge that had been plaguing the team for weeks. A persistent instability in the propulsion system threatened to derail the entire project. The engineers had tried every solution they could think of, but nothing seemed to work. Exhausted, but driven. Elias immersed himself in the data, poring over schematics and algorithms. He saw a subtle anomaly, a tiny fluctuation in the energy flow that everyone else had missed. It was a long shot, but he had a hunch. He spent the next 48 hours straight, fueled by coffee and adrenaline, developing a radical solution. He reconfigured the fuel injectors, adjusted the timing sequence, and recalibrated the control algorithms. It was a risky move, a complete overhaul of a system that was already on the brink. Finally, bleary-eyed and shaky, he presented his solution to the team. Anya and the other engineers were hesitant, but they trusted Elias's judgment. They ran a simulation, holding their breath as the numbers crunched. Then, the results came in. The instability was gone. The propulsion system was stable, efficient, and ready for testing. A collective cheer erupted in the room. Elias had done it. The breakthrough was a turning point, not just for the project, but for Elias himself. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of accomplishment, of purpose. The weight on his shoulders seemed a little lighter, the ghosts of his past a little quieter. He had proven himself, not just to Musk, but to himself. Musk, who had been closely monitoring Elias's progress, was ecstatic. He sought Elias out, clapping him on the back with genuine enthusiasm. "You did it, Elias," he exclaimed. "You pulled it off. I knew you had it in you." The two men found themselves in late-night meetings, poring over technical diagrams and discussing the intricacies of the propulsion system. Musk, a visionary and a brilliant engineer in his own right, recognized Elias's unique talent and valued his insights. A bond formed between them, built on mutual respect and a shared passion for pushing the boundaries of human achievement. One evening, as they were wrapping up a meeting, Musk turned to Elias, his expression thoughtful. "You know, Elias," he said, "this project wouldn't be where it is without you. You brought a perspective, an experience that no one else could have." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what I could," he mumbled, still struggling to accept the praise. Musk smiled. "Don't sell yourself short, Elias. You're a brilliant engineer, and you deserve to be proud of what you've accomplished." Elias looked at Musk, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. He had never expected to hear those words, not after everything that had happened. Emboldened by his success at SpaceX, Elias decided it was time to confront the past. He hadn't spoken to his family since the Mars mission failure. Shame and guilt had kept him away, convinced that he was better off alone. He found their number online and hesitated for a long time before dialing. The phone rang, each ring echoing in his ears like a death knell. Finally, a familiar voice answered. "Hello?" It was his daughter, Sarah, her voice older, more mature than he remembered. Elias's throat tightened. "Sarah? It's your father." A long silence followed, broken only by the sound of Sarah's breathing. "Dad?" she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. He explained where he was, what he was doing. Sarah listened intently, and she asked questions about his life. He told her about SpaceX, about Musk, about the confidential project that had given him a second chance. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I messed up, and I let everyone down. But I'm trying to make things right." Sarah said she hadn't blamed him for what happened. "We missed you, Dad," she said softly. "We wanted you to come home." Elias was silent for a moment, tears welling up in his eyes. "I'll come visit," he promised. "Soon." As he hung up the phone, a wave of relief washed over him. The past was still there, a part of him, but it no longer defined him. He had a future, a purpose, and a family waiting for him. He was no longer the ghost of Hawthorne, but a man reborn. He acknowledged his mistake with the rover and started thinking of his new role at SpaceX. The sprawling SpaceX facility buzzed with a controlled frenzy. Months of relentless work had culminated in this moment. The confidential project, the revolutionary propulsion system for deep space exploration, was nearing completion. The air crackled with anticipation and nervous energy as the launch date loomed, a colossal weight pressing down on everyone involved. For Elias, the tension was almost unbearable, a familiar echo of the pressure that had preceded his downfall. He found himself instinctively adjusting his collar, a phantom sensation against his skin, a tic that had resurfaced with a vengeance in recent weeks. The propulsion system was now mounted on a test rocket, a gleaming silver spire against the California sky. Technicians swarmed around it, making final adjustments, their movements precise and deliberate. Elias stood a short distance away, his heart pounding in his chest, observing the culmination of his efforts. The past months had been a blur of intense work, punctuated by moments of crippling self-doubt and fleeting glimpses of hope. He had poured everything he had into this project, driven by a desperate need to prove himself, to erase the stain of his past failure. The final test was scheduled for dawn. Elias barely slept the night before, haunted by vivid replays of the Mars mission disaster. He saw the flames, heard the alarms, felt the crushing weight of responsibility. He tossed and turned, plagued by the fear that he was destined to repeat his mistakes. As the first rays of sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Elias arrived at the launch site. The atmosphere was electric, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Elon Musk stood near the control center, his gaze fixed on the rocket, his expression unreadable. The countdown commenced, each number echoing through the loudspeakers, ratcheting up the tension. Elias stood alongside the engineering team, his hands clammy, his breath caught in his throat. He focused on the data streaming across the monitors, searching for any sign of trouble. T-minus 10 seconds, the voice announced. 9, 8. Elias closed his eyes, a silent prayer escaping his lips. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. A deafening roar erupted as the rocket engines ignited, bathing the launch site in a blinding white light. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the rocket slowly, majestically, began to ascend. Elias watched, mesmerized, as it pierced the sky, leaving a trail of fire and smoke in its wake. For a brief moment, everything seemed perfect. Then, a high-pitched alarm blared from the control center. Panic rippled through the team. "Anomaly detected in engine array 3, a technician shouted. "Pressure dropping rapidly." Elias's mind raced. He scanned the data, his eyes darting across the screens, trying to make sense of the information. The pressure drop was significant, and if it continued, the engine would fail, potentially causing a catastrophic explosion. "Override safety protocols," someone yelled. "Shut down engine 3. "No," Elias shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone turned to look at him, their faces etched with disbelief. "Don't shut it down. Reroute the fuel flow from engine 1. Compensate for the pressure loss with a controlled burn." "Are you crazy, Vance?" an engineer exclaimed. "That's never been tested. It's too risky." "We don't have a choice," Elias insisted, his voice firm and resolute. "If we shut down the engine, we lose the mission. Trust me, I've seen this before." The memory of the rover flashed before his eyes. He knew what could happen if they didn't act quickly. Musk, who had been observing the situation with a steely gaze, stepped forward. "Do it," he commanded, his voice calm but authoritative. Follow Vance's instructions. The technicians hesitated for a moment, then, spurred by Musk's confidence, they began implementing Elias's solution. The seconds stretched into an eternity as they rerouted the fuel flow and initiated the controlled burn. Elias held his breath, his eyes glued to the monitors, willing the engine to stabilize. Slowly, agonizingly, the pressure began to rise. The alarm subsided. The rocket continued its ascent, its trajectory corrected. A collective sigh of relief swept through the control center. The team erupted in cheers, their faces beaming with elation. Elias stood there, his body trembling, his heart overflowing with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. He had done it. He had averted disaster. He had saved the mission. The rocket continued its journey into the upper atmosphere, a symbol of human ingenuity and perseverance, a testament to the power of second chances. In the days that followed, Elias received public recognition for his contributions. News outlets hailed him as a hero, a brilliant engineer who had overcome adversity to achieve the impossible. He was no longer the ghost of Hawthorne, but a respected member of the SpaceX team, a valuable asset to the company. He was given a permanent role, his expertise sought after by engineers from across the organization. He stood before the press, answering questions, recounting the events of the launch, his voice steady and confident. He spoke of the challenges he had faced, the doubts he had overcome, the lessons he had learned. He emphasized the importance of perseverance, the value of experience, the power of redemption. Later, in a quiet moment alone, Elias reflected on his journey. He thought about the mistakes he had made, the lives that had been affected by his actions. He knew that he could never fully erase the past, but he had found a way to move forward, to use his knowledge and skills to make a positive contribution to the world. He had found solace and purpose in his present accomplishments. One afternoon, Elias drove back to the stretch of road in Hawthorne where he had once lived. The landscape was unchanged, a stark reminder of his former life. He parked the car and walked to the patch of dirt where he used to sleep. He knelt down and carefully planted a small replica of the Mars rover in the ground. It was a simple gesture, but it symbolized everything he had been through. It represented his past, his failures, his hopes, and his dreams. It was a reminder of where he had come from and where he was going. The final scene shows Elias in his element, working alongside his SpaceX colleagues, poring over blueprints, running simulations, and brainstorming ideas. He was no longer haunted by the past, but energized by the future. He was eager to contribute to future missions, to push the boundaries of space exploration, to inspire the next generation of engineers. He was reborn, not as a flawless hero, but as a flawed human being who had found redemption through his work, his resilience, and his unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit. The collar-adjusting tick was no longer present.